Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about introductions. And I'm actually going to start by asking you to use your imagination. So I want you to imagine that it's Valentine's Day and that special someone in your life, whether they're real or imaginary, is giving you a gift. Now first imagine that the gift comes with this beautiful gift wrapping. It's a Valentine's theme, there's a really nice bow, it looks great. Or imagine that that special someone gives you a gift in a paper bag. Which of the two are you more excited about? Clearly, this is a leading question, and I want you to be more excited about the first one. It's been wrapped carefully, there's attention to detail, whereas this one just looks kind of last minute. Certainly you can tell me, well, it's just the gift that counts, or I'm happy to get anything. But for our purposes, we want to think about the gift wrapped present being more exciting, because generally it shows that the giver has really thought ahead, has caught your attention with something beautiful, and is trying to bring you in and get you excited. Whereas the paper bag, it does the job, it hides the present, but it doesn't do anything very exciting or different. And these are terms, kind of metaphors I like to use to talk about writing an introductory paragraph. You can start your introduction with something that's exciting, that's gift wrapped, that pulls in the reader and gets them interested. Or you could write a paper bag, which is kind of boring, and you tell the reader what they already know. So to write a gift wrapped introduction, which clearly is what I would like you to do, what we're really going to talk about is starting off with a hook. Something that will hook readers, will reel them in and make them want to keep going with your work. So I want to run through some possible introductory sentences with this essay topic. This isn't what we're writing about, but imagine that we're writing about zoos. And the question is, should zoos, which were first established in the 19th century, be abolished? Provide a well-supported argument in defense of your thesis. So we know that a thesis statement is going to argue an opinion. So you'd have to argue if you think zoos should be abolished or continued. Here's what you don't want to do. These are paper bag introductions. Zoos were first established in the 19th century and are still popular attractions today. The problem with this opening, if this is the first sentence of your essay, I read it and I say, I already know that. We all already know those things. So what you don't want to do is start by telling readers what they already know. And you might be saying, oh, I'll never do that. That's so boring. But just wait. It's what we're all drawn to when we write an introduction, starting with what we all already know. It's fine to do in your rough draft, but it's not a good way to ultimately start an introductory paragraph. Another thing you don't want to do is say something like, since the dawn of time, man has constantly enslaved animals on this planet. This must stop. This is what's called a sweeping generalization. You don't want to start at the beginning of time and go to modern day. It's just too much, too broad. So instead, I'm going to give you some specific strategies that you can try out for your hook. When I'm talking about a hook, I'm talking about the first sentence or several sentences in an introductory paragraph. There's more to the paragraph. We're just talking about that opening that's going to catch the reader's attention. So the first one is you can start off with a quotation. For example, John Peters, president of Marineland Park, argues that captivity for the whales is the best thing for them. Our habitat pool is just like the Pacific Ocean. Our killer whales can't even tell the difference. They're very happy here. So you could start your introduction with a quote like this and then continue on. I'm guessing that if you started with this quote, you would be finding a way to essentially mock it, if you will. Look at what this guy is saying. He's saying that captivity is the best thing for whales. Is he an expert on that? Our habitat pool is just like the Pacific Ocean. Really? Can a habitat pool be just like the ocean? I think that is a ridiculous claim. And then our killer whales can't even tell the difference. They're very happy here. How does he know that the killer whales can't tell the difference? Did he do an interview with them? A before and after? I mean, again, really kind of ludicrous statements. And then we think about, well, who is this guy? Why is he saying that? Oh, he's president of Marineland Park. So he has a real interest in people coming to the park and thinking that the whales are very happy because that's what ends up paying for his salary. So if I were writing an essay, I'd start with this hook and say, clearly, this can't be the case. And I'd comment on it to try to draw in the reader. So this is a quotation that's interesting and relevant. And in this case, it's interesting because it's ridiculous. So you could really hook readers by starting with a quotation on your topic. Another strategy for a hook, if you don't have a quotation, you could start with an anecdote, which is a tiny story, or a hypothetical example. You could use a personal story or a what-if scenario to help your reader visualize the topic. The example is about being a 7-year-old, remembering being at the Marineland in Niagara Falls, wondering how such a big whale could be happy in such a small pool. And then you continue on from there. A hypothetical example could work well for the advertising essay. You could say something like, imagine that by simply driving an Oldsmobile, you are able to lure in a beautiful international model. That's for my particular ad that I've been analyzing. That could be an imaginary scenario. Or imagine that by simply spraying on Axe body spray, 20 women mob you and want your attention, etc. Those are just possibilities for the essay you're working on. Another option would be to start with a question or a series of questions. Generally avoid the yes or no question because those are pretty simple. You want to get something that's going to make the reader think. What's the average lifespan of a whale in captivity compared to a whale in the wild, etc. You could start with a striking fact or statistic. This could work well when we get to the research paper when you'll have striking facts or statistics. And by the way, this example is not related to zoos. I couldn't find one on that. Instead, it's about gun control. So don't worry about assault weapons in zoos. Nothing's happening there. But here's a statistic you could start with if you're writing about gun control. According to a 1999 Statistics Canada poll, 93% of Canadians would support legislation to ban assault weapons. So again, an interesting statistic. You could do an analogy, which is a comparison. A habitat at Marineland Water Park is a cell not unlike what you'd find at the Kingston Penitentiary or at the Kent Correctional Facility. The difference, of course, is that every inmate at Waterworld has been wrongfully persecuted and incarcerated. The inmates are serving life sentences without having committed any crimes. So the writer here is drawing an analogy between jail or prison and a zoo, a water park. Clearly, the essay will be arguing for the abolishment of zoos and water parks. But this is a way, again, to try to draw in the reader. So those were just 5 possibilities for hooks. You would just choose one and try to reel in the reader. But in general, there are 3 things you need to do in an introductory paragraph. Start with a hook to bring the reader in. Then provide what's called a bridge. Introduce the essay's topic and provide any necessary background information. And then end with your thesis statement. I'm going to show you this short video that reinforces these concepts. Sorry. We can't escape advertising even in our
Hello
class.
everyone, this is Michelle, and welcome to this brief review of the introductory paragraph. Your introduction is your first chance to establish credibility with the reader, and one rarely gets a second chance to make a first impression. To be effective, your introductory paragraph must do 3 things. First, an introduction should grab the reader's attention. Second, the introduction should narrow the reader's focus and provide a connection to the last and most important part, your thesis, which must be presented as the central or controlling idea. A common way to construct your introduction is by using the funnel approach. At the beginning, you grab the reader's attention, showing that you, the writer, will be in control. In the middle portion of the funnel, you gradually narrow the reader's focus in preparation for the thesis, which is stated at the end or tip of the funnel. Let's take a closer look at each part. Generally, the first sentence of the introduction grabs the reader's attention and introduces the topic in a way that communicates its importance. You can accomplish this by using a surprising statistic, asking the reader a question, providing a strong quote, or historical background. Why go to so much trouble in the introduction? The introduction is where you, the writer, will either come across as someone who is in command of the topic or someone who is lacking the confidence or knowledge. The middle of the introduction provides any background information necessary to prepare the reader for the thesis. The main purpose of this section is to connect the intro's opening with the thesis. Without this connection, the thesis can come as a surprise to the reader who has not been adequately prepared for it. At the tip of the funnel comes the thesis statement. This is when the reader becomes fully aware of your argument or major point. The two main features of a thesis are: first, it addresses your assignment in a direct way, even to the point of repeating key words of the assignment directions. Second, the thesis presents your point of view or slant on the topic. The thesis is the core of your writing, around which all of the other parts revolve, and it must be showcased here in your introduction. There are three techniques usually frowned upon when writing an introduction. First, avoid being vague or hesitant, which immediately raises readers' doubts. Using first person is also a no-no, unless the assignment requires it. And finally, avoid the obvious announcement statements such as, "This paper will discuss," as a way to begin or end your introduction. Let's take a quick look at an effective introduction that combines these elements. As humans celebrate the new year, most are unaware that nearly 2/3 of polar bears will likely vanish by 2013 because of global warming. As you can see, it begins with a startling statistic that underscores the topic's importance. Next, with polar ice melting at alarming rates, bears are starving and drowning as scientists search for ways to prevent their extinction. This sentence provides a logical connection or bridge between the opening and the all-important thesis, which is to come. And finally, for polar bears to survive, humans must reduce global warming by conserving energy and reducing greenhouse gases, or soon it will be us facing extinction. Here is the thesis, which states a clear point of view that will be developed in the body. Throughout your college career, please remember that you may submit your...
Okay, so that was just a short video about how to write an introduction that I hope is helpful. I really like the idea of the funnel, where you start with something broad, a hook, and then you need your bridge to bring you down to your thesis. For our first essay, your introductory paragraph should start with a hook and choose any one that works. Just be creative. Then you need to introduce the essay's topic, which in this case you need to introduce your ad by briefly describing it. And briefly, you don't need to describe every element of the ad, save that for the body paragraphs. And then end with your thesis statement. And soon we'll be looking at an example essay and analyzing how effectively it's written. In particular, we'll look at the introduction as well. Now let's just talk briefly about titles. A title is part of your first impression, so it should convey your essay's focus. It should not be interchangeable with everyone else's title, like ad essay or essay one or my essay. You want it to be unique to what you have to say. Sometimes it helps to come up with the title after you've written the essay. That works for me. I write my essay or whatever I'm working on, and then I think about what I want to call it after I really know what it's about. The same thing can go for a hook. Like I said before, you can write a paper bag introduction and know it's not perfect, and then wait a little bit to get some inspiration for a creative opening. I have a link to the capitalization rules for titles. You always capitalize the first word of a title and the last word and the major words in between. That's just the basic overview, but this shows you specifically what a major word is and a minor word is. I don't expect you to memorize it. I expect you to look it up and do it correctly by looking it up. So here they are. Again, the first, last, and all major words are capitalized. What you don't need to capitalize, unless it's the first or last word, would be an article like the or a or an, or a preposition, in, of, on. Coordinating conjunctions, these are called the fanboys. I don't know if you've heard that term before. And, but, for, yet, so, or, nor. Or to when it's used as an infinitive, meaning kind of part of a verb, to go, to see, etc. So this can be a helpful link, or I'm sure you can Google and find this somewhere else. I don't expect you to memorize it. As I said, I do expect you to be resourceful, and after you've written your title, don't just guess, look it up and make sure it's right. It takes 2 minutes and it's worth it. So that is the end of the presentation on writing introductions and titles. Let me know if you have any questions.